Welcome everyone to the workshop, Make Bold Moves to Help Prevent and End Sexual Violence in the Workplace. Without further ado, I'd like to pass over the virtual mic to our lovely presenter, Mrs. S. Renee Smith.
If there I am. Hello, everyone. I am trying to bring up my screen here. There we go. All right, so let's see if we can get it. All right, so hello, everybody. I am so excited that we get to have this conversation today. I was reading in the chat, people from Hawaii and Ohio and Canada, New Mexico, of course, California and Florida, just totally amazing. So I'm looking forward to the things that we can learn from one another. I noticed that everyone's already engaged in the chat, so I ask that you continue to do that. Of course, we're normally live, and so I normally have the opportunity to feed off your energy and vice versa. So if I say something that you absolutely think it works for you, just type yes. And if it really, really hits you in a spot, just type yes, yes. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to type them in the chat, and Shelby's going to pull them in at the end. Hopefully we'll have some time to have some conversation, but I definitely want us to stay engaged. So let's get started and talk about how to make bold moves to help prevent and end sexual violence in the workplace. Again, I'm S. Renee Smith. I am the Chief Corporate Responsibility Officer at RALIANCE. Some of you are probably saying, I've never heard of you. Who are you? Where'd you come from? I'm going to share a little bit about that in a few moments. But first, I want to talk about why business leaders, and I can't see my slides, you all, because of the pictures. All right. No worries, we'll get through it. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is why business leaders actually find it important or significant, or if they find it significant to engage in a conversation about sexual misconduct. I also want to, are you controlling my slides? Who's controlling my slides? Are you controlling my slides, Shelby? Yes? Shelby,
No.
you are?
No, I'm not controlling the slide.
I'm controlling. Okay. All right. All right. So, and then the second one is I want to talk about what business leaders are looking for. So, are they interested? What are they looking for if they are interested? And how can we engage them in conversation in order to accelerate the relationship so that they will want and desire to hire you to do business? Yes? All right, so who is this person that is standing before you talking, and why am I qualified to have this conversation? A little bit about me. I started in corporate America. After I left corporate America, I ended up becoming a television talk show host, producer, spokesperson for United Paramount Network in Philadelphia. And then I became a director of public relations for a university, and I was an advisor to the president. So having the opportunity to see what happens in the boardroom. In addition to that, I've built 2 small businesses from an idea in my head to national status, working with some of the biggest names in the world. In addition to that, while building my second business, I work with over 100 organizations across 9 industries, including Walmart and Cigna and Bank of America, and the list goes on. So some of those companies that you may be thinking about, I have been at the table with them, talking with them, and actually doing some training and development with their employees already. I am a creator and presenter of programs. In fact, one of my programs is a senior leadership program at SHRM that helps leaders to understand how to build their personal brand and presence, executive presence. And if you don't know who SHRM is, it's the Society for Human Resource Management, and they are the world's largest HR organization. I am also the author of 6 books on leadership, communication, self-esteem. If you're familiar with the Dummy series, I am co-author of Self-Esteem for Dummies, and also the best-selling book, 5 Steps to Assertiveness, How to Communicate with Confidence and Get What You Want, which is put out by Callisto. And then, why do I really have expertise to do this business? Not only have I built my own business from a thought up, I've helped other people do the same. I have coached over 500 businesses over a period of 5 years and helped them to build their brand, their messaging, how to pitch, all the good stuff, some of the things we're going to talk about today, and how to actually build their business and engage organizations to want to talk to them and want to buy from them. So if that's not enough, I'm probably not your speaker, but I think that you're going to find that I'm going to try to share with you as much as I can in the period of time that we have to help you to begin to think even more critically about where you are, where you want to go, and how you can get there. But first, I want to learn some things about you. So Shelby, if you could put up the first poll, that would be helpful. All right, so it's going to look like, so let's see here. Wow, the numbers are going. This is good. All right, so for those of you who have approached a company, or if you have been approached by a company, so 73%, 74%, no, 52%. Okay, so almost half. It's still going. The numbers are still going. 53. So some of you have been approached, some of you haven't. 50-50. Okay, perfect. Can we end this poll and go to the next question, please? This is good. 50-50. All right, so some of you can stop sharing that, Shelby, and go to the next question. The next question is, have you had actual conversations? So the first step is, have you been approached? The next piece is, have you actually had conversation with them? And we're talking specifically about working for them. Because it's interesting, I think 53% said you approached them, but 55% said you have had conversation with them. So this is interesting. All right, the numbers have stopped. So about 55%, a little above the ones who have been approached. So some of you have had conversation. Interesting. Okay, if we can stop sharing that. And I'm going to ask you the third question. How many of you have actually signed a contract with them? You've actually done some work with businesses, whether corporate or small businesses. Shelby, you can end this one and then you can put up the next one. How many of you have actually been hired to do work? Wow, now this is going to be good. Good. All right. This is good. It looks like the numbers are still kind of coming in, but I will tell you this is very telling. So this is what it's telling me. Some of you are getting to the door. Some of you are getting in the door, but once you get inside the door, something is happening or not happening that is not turning the contract. Perfect. And 62% of you said that you haven't signed a contract. This is good, very important. All right, if we can end the poll and go to the last one, and just want to confirm the next question. Shelby will bring it up in a moment. How many of you are absolutely certain that this is a market that you want to do business? Shelby, when you get it, yep, there you go. How many of you know that? And that's 100. That's okay. There's some no's here. Very good. This is good. Very helpful. All right, very helpful, because 73% said you definitely want to do business. 23% said no, not interested, and then there's 8% that say you're not interested. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sprinkle some stuff about branding in here as well. So there'll be some nuggets for those of you who say no, I'm not interested in working with corporations. Thank you, Shelby, for that. For those of you who have said, I am not interested in corporate America, or small businesses, or doing work with businesses, you can stop sharing, Shelby, when you get a chance. Totally get that. I still want to offer you some nuggets, so this is helpful. And for the 70% of you who want to work with businesses, I'm going to offer you some tips on how to do that. Okay, so. And Shelby, when you're ready, you can stop sharing. So I want to get to the next slide, and the next slide is going to be my intention as soon as she gets the results off. But I'll tell you what my intention is, because I know what I want for you. And that is to get an insider view on, yeah, I can't move until it gets off the screen. I want you to get an insider look on what business leaders, how they think, how they operate, and how they make decisions. And the reason why I set that intention is because I believe when you understand what happens on the other side of the door, then you're going to understand how to package, position, promote, and pitch the information that you have to the organizations. But there was the percentage of you that said that you've gotten to the door, you've had conversation, that was pretty good. It was like maybe half, but then it stops. So I want to talk about what could happen, what didn't happen, to help you out. So I cannot move my, let's see, yes I can. All right, I'm going to move it even though the poll is still there, Shelby. So when you get a chance, you can just move that. All right, so I have another poll for you, and I want to find out, for those of you, can you tell me from a 1 to 5, how many of you believe that business leaders are concerned about sexual violence? That's the next poll, Shelby. Are we stuck, or what's happening here?
I did close it on my end. Does it give you the option to close it on your end as well? You might just have to close out the window yourself.
Oh, okay. I closed it. Can we bring up the second poll then? Thank you, Shelby. I was wondering what was happening there. All right. So I want to find out and gauge your opinion around how much do you think this is important to business leaders? Very good. Great information. So 39% of you are right in the middle with somewhat important. 40% are pretty much somewhat important. Don't think it's really that important to. Somewhat important. They could take it, they could not take it. Very good. And some of you think it's pressing priority. Very good. All right, so I'll close out the poll then. Does that end it? Perfect. All right. For some reason, it's not letting me, all right, I'll control it from here if I have to. Perfect. All right. So the first thing I want to do is talk about some misconceptions that can literally crush your business opportunities. And this isn't just this field. It is, it can be for small business owners, big business owners. This is just information that is important. So this isn't beating you up. It's just information that I have found that is very much needed for people. And it starts with media attention. So the moment that the media puts something out there, then there's a feeling that businesses automatically are ready to write a check. That's simply not true. The second piece is that sexual violence is as important to business leaders as it is to you. And I want to share this with you. This is what I know for sure. I've been in this business, meaning the field, right? Working for RALIANCE for about 7 months. And coming from a business background, I came into new awarenesses of the work that you do. The fact that you have a face to put to an incident. You are in it every day. You feel it. You're part of it. You're taking the journey with survivors. On the other hand, we don't know that. And I will share with you, when I was applying for this position, I didn't know a lot about the field. I just liked the position to be able to make an impact. I have always been involved with philanthropy work and all that. So I said, this would be a great time. And there was a news report about a police officer that was raping women that he would stop if they had a past record so that they wouldn't go to jail. He would force them to have sexual relations. That hit me hard. But the only reason why it hit me hard is because I had connected with RALIANCE. Otherwise, like a lot of the incidents have happened, it would have went over my head. Not because I didn't care, it was because I wasn't engaged as much. Get that? So even though you're in it every day, it's almost like, you feeling as strongly about cancer or heart disease or something else as you feel about sexual violence. Everybody's interest is different. So it's important for you to get that, because how you communicate with them is going to determine how they engage with you. That's why I'm sharing that. A nonprofit mindset fits the for-profit culture. I share with you a little bit about my background. That was just a taste. I have worked for profit, nonprofit, military, you name it. I mean, almost not every industry, but a lot of the industries out there. Every business is different. I share with you, I've worked with over 100 companies, over 9 industries. Their cultures are different, but I will tell you, there's something very unique about nonprofit, for-profit, academia, military. And each of those industries have a very different approach to developing people, to communicating with their customer, and also to how do they see their stakeholders, and watch this, stockholders who are part of their stakeholders, right? So how we approach them has to be from their perspective, and we're going to get into that. And let me know if I'm speaking too fast as well. You seem to be keeping up with me. So let me know. Let's talk about the corporate leaders and employees can't tell when you wing it, when you're faking it. When you ultimately get in the door, and I can say this because I've seen it, I've witnessed it, you have to be sharp. You have to not only know what you're talking about, but you have to also come with your A game. Because even though they're not perfect and no institution is perfect, there is a perception that if I go with this particular organization, am I going to get a level of excellence, right, that I'm used to? And I have seen that sometimes the way we show up doesn't quite hit the mark. So make sure you come with your A game, get your presentation professionally designed, be ready, because the employees and the leaders there, that's what they're going to be looking for. All right. Business leaders in the media, that they're looking for you when something happens in the workplace. They should be calling me and they should want to talk to me. So I put together a video. So take a look and then let's talk on the other side.
New this morning, 9 on Your Side's Lisa Smith talked with an HR consultant.
VPs of sales who just want to be funny. They just want to build, they think they're being fun with their team and whatever. And some of the stuff they're doing is just, oh my gosh.
Kathleen Snyder with local consultant firm HR Solutions says sexual harassment is a topic a lot of companies don't want to address.
There is a responsibility to provide a workplace that is free from any type of harassment or discrimination.
Snyder says that companies need to establish a zero tolerance culture. She says looking the other way just makes it worse.
There can be a significant liability for the company if they somehow knew about it or should have known about it and didn't do anything about it.
Meanwhile, workers being harassed should report it if they can.
When we put a policy together, it's best to have 2 people to report it to, because it could be the supervisor that's harassing them.
Lisa Smith, 9 on Your Side.
All right. So do you see what happened there? There's an issue, and as you saw, Harvey Weinstein in the background, so that's when all of this was coming out. They could have been ringing your phone for expertise, and for some of you, they may have. But for some others, they didn't ring your phone. Why not? Why did they go and look for the HR professional? And even though some of the things she said, right, we would probably say, well, why would she pinpoint a particular group, right? The salespeople, which was inappropriate, right? So, but nevertheless, she's still perceived as the expert. And this is where how you start articulating your mission and your message and how you position yourself as the go-to expert in this industry beyond just what you do, so that when businesses see you in these particular places and media is calling you and asking your opinion about different things pertaining to the workplace, you are now beginning your positioning piece, right? And sometimes that's where it starts, where the media starts calling you first. All right. Business leaders are clear on the value of your services. So many of you said, I would get in the door, we would have conversation. I was excited about it, Renee. And then crickets. They didn't call back. They wouldn't return my calls, and nothing happened. And a lot of it is because in the sales process, you are selling them on what you do and not the value you bring based on their problem. Get that? And if you got it, say yes or yes, yes in the chat, or ask a question and I'll address it at the end. All right? So it's important that you get this, that they're not necessarily clear on sexual violence and how it impacts their bottom line, and they're not 100% clear on it, and it's up to you to articulate it. Then every organization needs and wants your services. Some organizations need your services, but they don't want your services. Some organizations want your services, but they don't know they need your services. And so it's going to be incredibly important, again, for you to think and reflect on what's happening, why it's happening, how is it impacting the organization, and where do I fit in helping them to solve their problem? And we're going to go into detail with that. And then business leaders, they understand your lingo and language, and you understand theirs. I will tell you that just within Reliance, I can't tell you the number of times that they would look at me like, she's speaking another language, right? So I would say things, talent, right? So one of the biggest challenges that employers have had in the past, at least when I arrived, was talent development, right? How to recruit them, how to sustain them, how to make them a part of their succession plan. So I would always talk about talent. Talent, what's talent? Or level up your skills, or reimagine, right? How, like, all this business terminology made no sense, but then also microaggressions. I was like, what's that? Right? So we had to learn to speak each other's language, and we're continuing to learn. So it's going to be incredibly important that you learn the business language, because that's what they relate to, and that's what's going to help them to see that you can engage and connect their employees. And then next, your perspective is their perspective. So it doesn't matter if all of us were in a room right now together, even though all of you have probably years of experience in this business, each one of you have your own unique perspective and lens in which you see the world. The way that we can connect and engage is when we take off our lens and then engage and have conversation with each other and look through the world through the other person's lens. That's what builds a relationship with people. So understanding that they don't have your perspective and you don't have theirs. And the only way to get it is to ask the right questions. All right, so I want to talk about 3 key areas on how to scale up your organizational opportunities for corporate work. And it's going to start with reimagining your business. You absolutely have to reimagine your business. So here's what you absolutely have to get. I'm not asking you to do something that every CEO is doing right now that still has his or her business. They are reimagining what their business should look like. Right now, CEOs are saying, I don't know what to do, when to do it. I was listening to a CEO about 2 days ago. They make $5 billion every quarter. Do you know how much they made in the last quarter? $1 billion. So they are $5 billion down, and they're trying to figure out how to reimagine their business with less income, how they can still serve their employees, but also how do they look at the world through a different lens, because at one time businesses believed that it was the government's responsibility to deal with social issues. And now, as a result of COVID-19, the pandemic, as a result of the economic downturn, and as a result of the racial injustices that is going on, the Black Lives Matter movement, they are saying we are responsible for social justice and social issues. And it doesn't just have to be racial. It's about diversity. It's about inclusion. It's about how we get along. It's about empathy. I'm going to go into detail about it. So every organization that wants to sustain itself, it's literally pivoting how it thinks, how it operates, and what it's going to do. So I'm going to give you some tips. First of all, you have to do some personal development and understand your client. Secondly, you're going to have to do some business development in order to connect with your ideal client. And then some professional development to engage your client. Engage your client. Those are 3 very specific areas that in order to get to that next level, you're going to have to begin to think critically. And it all starts with you. And the way you start pivoting towards success is with your mindset, starting with your beliefs. Examine what you believe. what you believe about life, what you believe about business, what you believe about the world, right? Because everything that you believe, you take with you. And so you may be thinking, well, Renee, why do I have to examine my beliefs? Because they're examining theirs. They're examining, re-examining their beliefs. And as a result, they are pivoting. And when they pivot, if you don't pivot, they're going to be far down the road and the gap is going to widen. So you have to be able to look into the marketplace, see what's happening, what's not happening, and what needs to happen or what needs to stop happening in order to get us where the majority of people are trying to go, which is about equality. It's about social issues. How do we learn to get along with one another? And not just race, it's also gender. And that's where you fit in. We're going to talk about that. Also, understand what's important to the CEO. So one of the first things I have always told my clients is understand what's important to the CEO. Go to the website, make a list of all the companies you want to work with, go to their website, download their annual report. You're going to get tons of information, where they are, where they want to go, what were their hiccups throughout the year, what are their strengths, their weaknesses, what are their opportunities. You're going to get all of that information. And then you're able to plug in, or at least see, what are some of their problems and where do you want to go with it, right? This is critically important. I tell the team at RALIANCE, never show up to a meeting, ever, 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 show up to a meeting and not know who's going to be at the table. You should have Googled their name, know something about them, make a connection point, know like who's going to be at the table? How can I get them talking? This is critically important because many of you said, I was approached, they were approached. We had conversation and then crickets. And it went to crickets because it is likely how you showed up didn't meet their expectations in terms of what they see in somebody they can bring in to talk to their employees. Now, that wasn't your fault because you didn't know how they think, but I'm going to tell you. All right. Learn the organization's hierarchy and culture. Sometimes you're talking to the right person, sometimes you're not, right? So you want to know who is the person that makes these decisions? Where are they in the hierarchy? Because also, this is incredibly important because it also includes what you say to them, right? So if I'm an entry-level person, but I can wear your t-shirt in because I know somebody, I have some relationships, alliances, how I communicate with you being a frontline person is different than somebody at a director, vice president, CEO level, right? C-suite level. Just the nature of the conversation, the words that I choose, how I engage. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And finally, be open to possibilities. Be open to possibilities. Let me share with you a quick story. And this is about my business. So I started my business in 2005. And shortly thereafter, I had a friend whose brother passed. And so she called me up and said, hey, my brother passed. I said, not a problem. You know I'm there. So I went to the funeral. And when I was standing there talking with somebody, remember I talked about branding, like just be in your brand, be you, be authentic, be genuine, but also be able to engage people in conversation, talk less, listen more. So I'm talking to this man, and we're just talking, and I'm just asking him questions and learning more about him, and just really just having fun talking. So he says to me, well, what do you do? And I shared with him, I work with organizations in talent development. To make a long story short, that ended up being my very first $25,000 contract. Well, it was $24,500, almost $25,000 contract. I got it just by showing up, at a funeral in my brand, engaging him in conversation. And he asked me, well, what do you do? Get that? So you have to be open to possibilities. Every opportunity doesn't come as a result of a knock on a door. You are in spaces all the time where there are executives. Let me give you another example. Many of you probably share the stage with a lot of people, or in front of a lot of people. You share the stage with a lot of people, but also you're in front of a lot of people. So I was asked to facilitate a workshop at one of my clients. It was a university that I was speaking at, because the universities were also a part of the organizations I work with. So they asked me, would you be willing to facilitate a workshop? Absolutely, I'm happy to. So I facilitated. There was Cigna, and there were some other companies, major companies there. Literally, when it was over, the VP from Cigna said, we need you at Cigna. That's how I got the job, and started, and being a part of became their branding person of their university, their branding expert. So it doesn't have to be you knock on doors. Every place that you go, every place that you show up, opportunities are all around you. Do you know what message you're conveying? Does your message speak to the people that you're attempting to engage in work? Let's go a little bit further. So what keeps CEOs up at night? So right now it's constantly changing. So I pulled some data that is very recent. Harvard Business School surveyed 600 CEOs in the midst of the pandemic and said, okay, what's going on here? Like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are your top priorities? What's going on? We want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. And as you see, they said almost every aspect of doing business must be completely rethought. So how they built their business isn't how they can continue to grow their business as a result of what's going on. And that's why I said, not only am I asking or challenging you to reimagine your business, because they're reimagining theirs. So what are the three primary categories? Number one, continuous learning. And the things that we're learning, how do we quickly integrate this information so it becomes a solution to a problem? The second one is making these complex decisions. Some of this stuff is very simple, but they have very complex problems. They're very simple. The issue is obvious, but the solution is complex, right? And then third, empathy. How do we maintain wellness with our employees? How do we maintain focus? We don't want to fire people. That's why we furloughed them. But now the economy keeps moving in a particular direction. I know they just announced today that I think the economy is going up a little bit, but I have to lay off workers. How do I extend their health care? How do I help their parents work from home? How do I balance all this? I don't know how to do it. Help, help. And they're calling for you. And I'm going to show you why. So I want to take a poll. And the poll again, Shelby, if you can bring this up. In which category does sexual violence fit? As you look at the three categories that I just went through, where do you see sexual violence fitting? Where do you see yourself solving the problem? I see the numbers are still going up, so I will wait. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So we have 63. Oh, it's still moving. The numbers are still moving. Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay, it looks like they have stopped. Okay, so 63%, 82 of you said all of the above. And then we had coming second is empathy, maintaining wellness and focus, good deal. And then we had 16 of you saying continuous learning and integrating new information, very good. And then other ones making complex decisions. And only 2% saw yourself in none of the categories, very good. I will share with you, I will share with you how I see it. The majority of you, I'm with the majority of you, yay! We got some smart people here. But those of you who said, I see myself in particular areas, that's not a bad thing, because that tells me here's where my niche is gonna be. And that's really where you become the go-to person, right? It's knowing the niche. But absolutely, when you look at the sexual violence industry, you could fit into any of those. But if you want to fit in a particular category and that be your area of service, then that's not a bad thing either. All right, so let's talk about business development, your ideal client, and what that looks like. Another poll. I want to find out if any of you have started thinking about or developing a plan to engage, Shelby, whenever you're ready. Yep, thank you, Shelby. To engage in the business industry. How many of you have started developing a plan? Like, I'm ready to do this. I've been watching the market. I know what's going on. I know what's happening. I'm ready to run. Okay, very good. This is good. This is good. This is good. Okay. All right, look, for a second, it looked like the numbers stopped, but they're continuing to go. And they keep it inching up slowly but surely. Okay, so 65% of you saying, I don't have a plan, 31% is saying I do have a plan, and then the other 4% other. So for those of you who don't have a plan, hopefully this piece is going to help you. Let me see if I can close this out. All right. So what I want to do is I want us to take a journey. I want us to just imagine yourself being observant, and I'm calling this a think tank development, right? That's what I'm calling it. So I want you to imagine yourself. You don't get to sit at the table, but you do get to observe the people at the table. So I want you to imagine yourself a big boardroom, and in the big boardroom are the individuals who are in the C-suite. And for those of you who are familiar with the C-suite, let me assume that you may not know all the people in the C-suite. Now, this is for major corporations. Also, you have small businesses. They may not have all of these people, and some of these people may be at the table, some may not. So this isn't for every organization, but let's take it as high as we can, and then we can always back. So you have the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer. You have the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. You have the CIFO, the Chief Information Officer. You have the Chief CFO, the Chief Finance Officer. You have the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer. You have the Chief Responsibility, Social Response, CSR, Chief Social Responsibility Officer. You have the Chief Human Resource Officer. And you have the let's see, who did I miss? Chief Marketing Officer, right? So they're all at the table. Now, you are observing what happens. What questions are they asking each other? What are they looking for, right? All right, let's do this. So let's look at the first part, the continuous learning and integrating new information and the importance of this. So the first thing that they're asking is, what's happening? What's happening right now? What is the buzz all about, right? What's happening? And that's what the CEO is at. And he's sitting at the table and different people are engaging in that conversation. So then he's going to ask, so why is it happening? Why is this, what's at the core of this? What is the problem? And then he's going to ask, who is it happening to? Is it happening just to women? Is it happening to men? Is it happening to their children? Who is this happening to, and why is it happening, and what is happening? And then he says, he's going to ask, well, is it relevant to our strategic plan? Does it fit with our values, right? But today he's also asking, shall we consider it? Shall we put it in the strategic plan, right? Because he's reimagining his business. And what would it mean for us as an organization, to our customers, to our employees, to our stockholders, which are our stakeholders? What will it mean to them, right? And that's where you have to begin to think in terms of your thinking. You have to think like the CEO because you want to have conversation with him. And the way to engage him, think about your business. When you go out and you're talking to someone who has been assaulted, you're trying to connect and engage with them, right? You're showing empathy, you're showing understanding, you're showing that you've seen this before and you can help them navigate their current challenge. Now take that same skill set and apply it to the business aspect of who you're trying to talk to. Back to the boardroom, everybody, back to the boardroom. So now we're going to go to, how should we tackle and communicate this issue? One thing about a CEO, when you get in that C-suite, they are strategic thinkers, and they're thinking about how many different ways this can impact our business. That's why they have the 8 people at the table: the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, the CTO. Like, that's why all those people are at the table, because he's bringing his senior leadership team, and he's asking, from your angle and from the angle in which you see it, tell me what you see. And Mr. or Mrs. HR person, tell me from your perspective, right? So that's what's happening at that table, and they're wondering how to tackle it and communicate the issue. They don't have the answer. They're looking for the answer. And you, my friends, are the answer. And last is, what's the best implementation strategy? So shall we tackle this issue from the inside? Shall we go get experts from the outside? Who are those experts? Where can we find them? If I Google them, who comes up? Or more than likely, they're going to say, who do you know? Or what organization shall we go to find out, right? So question number 2, you're still in the boardroom, everybody. You're still in the boardroom. So for those of you who said, I want to be about making complex decisions and plans and helping them to resolve those quickly. Here's where they start. The CEO says, okay, where's the facts? Where's the data and the analytics? There's nothing more powerful today, nothing worth more money today than facts and data and analytics. That is money. That is money. Information on people, how they think, how they work, how they buy, what they do. That's why there's so much conversation around how much information, the different apps that you use, how much they're gathering, them selling it, right? Because every move you make on the internet, they know where you go, they know what you buy, they know how you think, right? They know what draws you in. That's what this is about. companies are very much into data. And then, who are the internal experts that we have? Do we have somebody already that is engaged with that? Because if they have a level of expertise, if we need to bring somebody external, then they can better assess if they have the skill set to do this job. So just because I go to my internal experts, it doesn't mean that I'm going to hire somebody internal or I'm going to have somebody internal do the work. I can still hire somebody external, but they are the expert in assessing and measuring whether or not you're capable of doing the work. Hopefully this makes sense to you. Then he's going to come back and says, what decision really needs to be made here? Okay, we have 50 issues here coming from all these different angles, but what's at the core? What is the decision we really, really need to make in order to move the needle on our problem? And then they're going to ask, and I brought up 2 at the same time, but that's fine. When does the decision need to be made? So remember in the beginning, when I asked you the question about how important is, or where do you think it's on their radar, business leaders? And some of you said, well, kind of in the middle. Some of you said high. Some of you said low. You know, where is this in terms of my priority? What are the most pressing concerns I have, right? And we just went through what those 3 are. And I will tell you, I guarantee this. Some of my friends are literally in the C-suite at Fortune 100 companies, and we have conversations often, and they are concerned about social issues. They are absolutely concerned about social issues. And this, obviously, the work that we do is absolutely a social issue. It's about how 2 people engage with one another, and one ends up being hurt, devastated, traumatized, while the other goes on and may not even realize, or unwilling to recognize, or just not even on their radar that they've left somebody back there hurting, etc. And they may know, you know, we don't know. Every person is different. So how do we measure results? This is so incredibly important. When you go out and you start engaging companies, you have to have some type of way of measuring the results. And if you get in the door and sign the contract, how are you going to measure the results? And once you do, make sure you measure the results for the first time. So why do I say that? Remember the contract that I told you, the first contract I got, I think like 6 months into the business, where the guy was at the funeral. He said, I literally measured the results of the employees. I was able to say that 98% of the employees who go through this program will literally go to the next level. And this is what the next level looks like. It looks like going back to school. It looks like increased productivity by a certain percentage. It looks like literally you have to measure results. Companies are into results, and what specifically those results are, what measuring mechanism you use to measure those results. So you want to build into your contract so many hours and so much time for follow-up. Don't just say, okay, I want to come in for training one time, and don't go back and assess the impact of your training. That is like that, you're going to be dead in the water, dead in the water. Let me tell you why. It takes you 2 times as much energy to get a new contract as it is to sell the existing client on more business. So I don't know if I mentioned this, at least it was on the slide, that 95% of my clients came back on the average 3 times minimum. And the reason was because I kept measuring the results and getting further and further and further into their organization, right? And you want to continue to get further and further and further into the organization, where even some of them, that's the average 3. Some of my clients were my clients for like 6 years, 10 years, right? Because Service your client, make sure you get results. It will make the world of difference in your business. All right, number 3, empathy, maintaining wellness and focus. Now, so we're still the fly on the wall in the boardroom, right? What are they asking? What is the CEO asking? He's asking, okay, so what is needed here? What do we need to do? And then they're asking, who needs it? Is it all the employees? Is it a certain division within the company? Is it salespeople? Is it the people doing customer service on our telephone lines? Who is it that needs it, right? Maybe it's everybody, but maybe it's a specific division. And who is the best, what is the best way to provide the service, right? Should it be an extension of the healthcare benefits? Should it be something we do from home? Do we bring them into the office? Shall we do it via Zoom? Today, they're probably not going to maybe not do it from the office, but do we do it via Zoom? Really, how should we do this? And it's really interesting because one company, literally, they had a town hall meeting. This is how innovative people are being. They had a town hall meeting via Zoom. And at the same time, people all around the country heard their doorbells ringing, and they had contracted Domino's Pizza to ring the doorbell of their employees around the nation at the same time delivering a personal pizza. How awesome is that? Can you imagine how that made? So thinking outside the box. They're thinking outside the box. You have to think outside the box, but also you have to help them think outside the box. When should it be provided? They're asking, like in that example. So they're all talking about how can we do something for our employees? They've been in quarantine for all these days. What can we do? Well, we should do pizza. Well, you know, what is needed to do that? Oh, we have to do this. Who needs to do it? How we can do it? When should we do this? Oh, let's do it in the town hall meeting. See that? See how they're all brainstorming, bringing all their people together and just literally brainstorming and coming up with ideas. How and when, how and how long should it be provided, the service that we're talking about? And then how do we gauge success? In that instance, the happy faces on Zoom said success. The ones that came, I got my pizza, that was success for them, right? All right, so let's talk a little bit about, and we're in good time, perfect. Let's talk a little bit about the professional piece and how to engage your clients. Shelby, are there any questions that are coming through? Shelby, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I don't see any questions at the moment.
Okay, so those of you who have questions, you've been thinking about some of the things I've been saying, start posting your questions so that I can answer them. So you may be asking, okay, Renee, what shall I talk about? When you were talking to that man, what were you talking about? You know, or when you when the person approached you about Signal, what did you talk about? Talk about really anything, right? Remember, I asked the questions. So this is what you need to do. Ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. I can't tell you the number of times that you will eliminate yourself because you're bound to say something that they don't want to hear. You're bound to be so passionate about your issue because they're going to say, probably not going to fit in our culture. It just happens. I can't tell you the number of times, okay, I'm going to raise my hand first. If you're going to go raise your hand, I'll raise my hand. I can't tell you, yes, I signed a lot of contracts in my business, but I can certainly tell you I lost a lot of contracts too because I talk too much, right? Literally, the contract's on the table and they're about to sign, and then I say something. Why did I say something? Renee, be quiet. Don't say anything. Just listen and ask questions. Because what that does, the person who is listening is in the power seat. the person that's listening. And what's going to happen, because corporate leaders are very savvy at this, they are going to immediately start asking you questions. Oh, well, how are you doing? Right? And you're going to quickly give very short answers and say, oh, you know, I really enjoyed learning more about you and your organization. And I'd really like to talk about this, right? I'd really like to get your feedback on this. Let them talk. Find a way to get out of it. It's almost like, have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and you know you need to pivot, right? You need to go and take care of something. You have to find a way to pivot the conversation and direct it towards them, because you want to get them talking. The more they talk, the more you're understanding how they think, how they operate, what they want to do, what problems they have, how they're thinking about solving them, and what you're thinking in your mind, oh, I can help them with that. Yeah, that works. That works. I can help them with that. So why are businesses concerned about sexual violence? I'm not so sure that's 100% on the top of their mind, but this is what I know for sure. This is on the top of their mind. Morale, employee morale, productivity, their reputation as an organization, and the costs. So the outcomes of sexual violence is on their mind. They may not even know that at the core there's sexual violence or sexual harassment, they may not even know that, but they know this. They know there's something going on with my morale. Something going on with my productivity, my reputation. People are buzzing. I saw something on social media, right? So those are the things that they are concerned about. So when you go in and you attack it from a sexual assault or a sexual violent perspective, they may not hear you. But if you ask them about morale, so tell me a little bit about your organization. But what I like to do, especially when it was live, when you could go into the office, I like to talk to people just in walking. How do you like it? You like working here? Really? Really? Well, what do you like about it? Really? What's the hardest thing about working here? You would be surprised what people will tell you. So it's important that when you know somebody that works there, what they'll tell you. My advice, you can take it or you don't have to. My advice, don't take it from the angle of sexual violence, unless you know that's what they're looking for. Take it from the perspective of how's your morale, really? And you're gonna find out some of that before you ever get there. Because here's a tip. Go on, oh my gosh, go on like Indeed or any of the other sites for hiring. Glassdoor is where I'm talking about. Go on Glassdoor, research a company, and you'll see employees, they grade the company and they'll tell you about morale. They'll tell you what's going on. They'll tell you about you get so much information from that. That doesn't mean that you go and use that information against them. You're simply gathering data that allows you to form questions that are respectful, but yet allow you to dig for information to find out what's going on in the organization. So these are the areas that they really talk about. So I'm gonna play a video and then we'll continue.
What are we talking about in terms of damages and costs?
Sure. Thanks, China. Well, I mean, the costs can be quite significant, and some companies may not survive a claim, whether because of the financial costs or reputational impacts. And I would say at a minimum, cases that are settled out of court will range somewhere between $75,000 and $125,000, but those that go to trial could be well into the millions of dollars when all is said and done. So really, when you are considering the costs, you have to look at both the monetary and the non-monetary. Certainly potential fines, settlements, possible amounts for the potential of punitive damages, and then loss in productivity, increase in absenteeism, and other factors that fall into play in workplaces where harassment is thriving. Also, the effects of overall employee morale need to be considered. And of course, the damage to the company's reputation and if that's something that they can survive.
All right. All right. So you have this attorney that was, you see the resource in the corner, Hub International. It's a webinar where this attorney is talking about what are the challenges that companies are faced with. Now, let's be clear. $125,000 lawsuit or request for money is not going to make a major corporation go out of business, right? And very few individuals will likely go through a trial because of sexual harassment. So it is likely they're going to settle out of court. This particular issue for me, I would believe, or I would assess based on my limited knowledge, but I would probably hypothesize that the $125,000 going out of business would be a small business, right? Where you may have 50 employees or less, or 500 employees or less, right? Where you have multiple cases. Now, from my reading, keep in mind, when you look at the research that is out there, is so vast. I mean, I read, 33 million women have talked about sexual harassment. Then you talk about, maybe 6 in 10. There's a lot of research out there, so you don't know, right? Because it's all different and coming from different resources. But we do know it happens, and we do know that it impacts people's lives. And probably for the most part of it, almost all of us can raise our hand. Men and women can raise our hands and says, at some point, we things have been said or done that fit in the category of sexual harassment. So for a large corporation, they may not look at it that way as, well, the cost, yeah, but morale, yes, maybe it could be, they will look at the morale piece, they may look at the productivity piece, right? All of those areas are extremely important. But then too, now let's think critically. Let's pause for a moment. I want to get some thoughts from you. So as you think about all this data and think about how companies are pivoting, right? What could you offer them? Let's think, let's just have a brainstorming session, right? What could you offer them that would deal with sexual harassment, but not say sexual harassment, right? You talked about the whole empathy piece, right? Well, what would that look like? What would that look like? Let's put it in the chat. Let's flush through some of this. We have a little bit of time to flush through this, or if you have questions. But I'd love to know how you're thinking about this right now in terms of what you've learned, how CEOs are thinking, what they're thinking about, how they're thinking, how they gather their team, how they're at the table, getting different perspectives that come to the table. So I'm going to pause and see if Shelby sees anything coming up through the chat. Anything, Shelby?
Yes, there's a few answers. Some people are saying trauma sensitivity training, cultural awareness trainings, conflict management training, emotional intelligence trainings, mental health and wellness, being a trauma-informed workplace, climate assessments, employee health and wellness, team building and resilience activities.
Very good, very good. I'm gonna share something with you, even as we continue, because those are some of the things that you often hear. So let's think a little bit more, right? Let's come out of the box even more. Those are great. Don't get me, those are all wonderful and they all work. But let's think a little bit deeper. So let's say, we had the Me Too movement, right? And that was really hot. 2017, 2018, first part of 2019, then the health pandemic started. And it kind of got off of the radar, right? I mean, it's still there, but it's not front and center. So, but when it was there, research tells us that men were wondering, how do I now interact with women, right? That was the big conversation. That was big. Could you teach about gender interactions and how to be respectful to one another? Is that a workshop that you could teach? Yes? Yes, yes? Any responses, Shelby?
Yeah, so one person, yes. Someone says they focus in creating a culture of consent in the workplace, sexual harassment training. More yeses.
Yeah, yeah. So I want you to begin to think, here's where you can really make your money, is what is the research saying that is happening? So I just, that 51% of the men, 51% of men are saying, as a result of the Me Too movement, I don't know how to interact with women. I just don't know. I don't know. Do I open their door? Do I not open their door? Do I, we're on a business trip and we have to go over some things. Do we still have it over dinner, or is she going to be insulted by that? Should I ride the elevator up with her and she's on the second floor, I'm on the fourth floor, or should I stand back and not get on the elevator at all? Let her go to her room. I wait till the elevator totally lets her off and I go. See those problems? Get that? So I want you to begin to think about and do research on what are the core problems that they're dealing with, not just the obvious. Those are great, but a lot of people are going to be doing that. And when I went on SHRM's website, they have like 91 companies that's doing a lot of the things that you're talking about. I want to bring something fresh, something new, something that says I've given some thought, that, I dig deeper into the minds and the psyche and to the understanding of what's happening internally. I am going to bring out the conversation that people are buzzing about, but nobody wants to talk about, right? Men just don't know what to do anymore. So, and then something else that the research is saying, well, the Me Too movement and sexual harassment really isn't going to help women to progress in their careers. Don't you think that could be a challenge, right? So how do we develop women to also be more aggressive, but yet combine that culture piece, right? And create, as you talk about, a structure. How do we integrate all of these things, all of these pieces? Because you can go in with one training and then say, well, this is what else I see, and this is what else I see. So all of these challenges, right, that are happening, and let me be clear, I didn't say that I believe women are responsible for sexual harassment. Did not say that. What I did say is there room for empowerment? And what does that look like? And how do we build systems in your HR department, as well as provide training and development for, and it doesn't just have to be for women, also men are sexually harassed. In fact, 27% of men said that they have been harassed as well. So what I'm trying to get you to do is think outside of what is typical and what is already being given, to brand yourself, create a little space for yourself where you can take it to different companies, and then also expand. Because once you're in the door and you create results, they're gonna call you, and they want more and more, because you are the go-to person that can make it happen. And a part of that comes as a result of the research that you do on the front end, which helps you to really develop great critical thinking and innovative ideas on how to solve their problems that nobody may be talking about, but they're talking about at the water cooler. right? All right, any questions? Shelby, I want to check in with you all. We have a few more moments, and I want to check in with you, see what you're thinking, you're feeling, find out what questions you have. Certainly want to gauge if I've been able to help you today. If I have, type yes. If I really have, type yes, yes. Let me know. I need to feel you. Tell me what's going on in your head and in your hearts. Shelby, I'm depending on you.
Many people are typing yeses right now. There were a few questions that came in earlier that I pulled. So I'll just go ahead and read. So one of them says, when you approach a company, do you go straight to the CEO or go to the HR first?
Great question, and it all depends. So let's say if you're working with a small company, you can go directly to the CEO. Now, this is the thing about small companies. Small companies typically don't have an HR department. So I'm really glad you asked that question. Who asked that question? Just the first name, not the last name, Shelby.
Sunny.
Sunny. So, if you go to a small company, many small companies don't have an HR department, so they are a great opportunity for you to go in and offer your services. One of their biggest concerns is, can I afford it? Will I be able to train? Will I be able to afford the training? But also one of their concerns is, well, what happens though if I get sued? Right? So they're on both ends. So they are a great opportunity and a great market to tap into. In that instance, I would focus on the CEO and try to engage in conversation. With a larger company, it's likely that you're not going to have access to a CEO, but you will have access. You may be able to get to the human resource department. Now, here's what's tricky about that. Large companies have very large human resource department. So you have the generalist, and then you have the specialist, or you have the specialist, the generalist. They have like all these different titles. So you may not get to the proper person that's the decision maker. What I have often tried to do, but remember, let me share with you the strategy. I'm going to go back to the strategy that I employ. Nearly every client that I had came as a result of speaking, right? So Cigna came as a result of speaking. You have to nail it. When you're out there, you come prepared, you have intellectual property, you have studied, you have manned up, and you are womaned up, and you know your stuff. You are the expert. Nobody can out-talk you, outsmart you, outmove you, because you are the go-to expert. That is going to be critically important. It's also going to be important that you are able to speak their language. So Bank of America, I spoke at a university at a conference. In fact, it was a big university, like 30,000 employees. And one of their representatives were there to recruit. And she came in on session. She was like, "We need you at Bank of America." That's how I got there. I've never really called on companies. It's just once you start putting yourself out there, show up with great presence, show up in your brand, know what your mission is, know what your message is, know how you can connect and engage people, know the stories you're going to tell to connect with your audience. And I will tell you, people are drawn to that, and they will immediately say, "I need you." I hope I answered your question, Sunny. Next question, Shelby.
So Haley asks, how much should you charge for training?
Great question, Haley. So there's a big range out there. If you're just starting out, I get my foot in the door, especially if you don't have a track record, right? If you don't have a track record, you need to get in the door. So I would say anywhere from $3,500 to $10,000 a day, right? That's a range based on where you are. So I'm trying to think back. Now, this was in 2005. I'm trying to think back where I started. I would do trainings at about $500 an hour, right? That training, that $25,000 contract was over a period of 6 months. I went there, and this was key. So I knew I didn't have any evidence of my work. So I didn't want to go in saying, oh, it's going to be $50,000 because I have no evidence. So I used that 24,500 was the exact amount. I trained 100 employees. Now this was in 2006. I trained 100 employees over a period of 6 months. I went to their office twice a month, right? Excuse me. And then I said I needed to do follow-up work. And that's what I did. So it depends on, Haley, where you are, how you can, and I will tell you this. The reason why I said from 3,500 to 10,000, because it's going to be also depend on your expertise and how you can substantiate your expertise, and also how you can show how much money they're losing as a result of the problem that they have, right? Because you may have to justify the pricing. At about $3,500 a day, you're not gonna have to justify pricing. I mean, $3,500 a day isn't that much money. But when you get to 7,500, 10,000 a day, and some people that are in the speaking business, they make even more than that. But I know for a fact about the $7,500 to $10,000 a day. I know that is possible when you're able to justify it. But again, how are you packaging it to them? How does it make sense to them? Are you communicating in a voice that can show them, I'm $10,000 a day, but you're losing $100,000, or your turnover is so high. So you look at it, you say, okay, if I can retain one employee at $40,000, right? Because by the time you hire them, by the time you advertise, onboard, bring them, bring them on board, hire them, give them health insurance and all that, you spend about $40,000. It's going to take about a year and a half before you ever even see their salary plus the $40,000 that you invest in getting this job filled, right? So now if let's say that person's making $60,000, that's $100,000. Look at their retention rate. If their retention rate is low, then you can talk higher numbers because they're going to want to retain. And if you talk about retention, does that make sense? So it's all about what their problem is and how you align what you do and helping them to save money. And what saving money looks like to them is retaining an employee that literally cost them $40,000 to bring on board. They paid another $60,000, and a year and a half they're gone. So now I have $130,000 in the outdoors, and you only cost me, say it's a $30,000 investment, because you're going to say, I'm going to present. Remember, don't just go with one workshop, go with a plan. Have a full-fledged plan. Here are the workshops that I teach. Here's the impact of those workshops. Here's how they can help you, right? And they may say, well, I just want that one. They're saying that because they're not convinced that you can do it, but they want to try you out. After they try you out, they will hire you for more business. If you produce. I hope that was helpful, Haley. Yes? Are you saying yes? Are you saying yes, yes? Or are you saying yes, yes, yes?
She thanks me for asking the question. It was really helpful information.
Perfect, perfect. Any other questions, Shelby, that we have in the chat? I know we probably have less than 2 minutes. I think we need to get ready to wrap up. But any other questions that I can help you with? I'm going to pause. Shelby, any other questions?
Yes, I just wanted to elevate maybe 1 or 2 more because of the time. So I know someone asked for how to contact you if they have questions later. Great, so there's your email. And then just one more question. Yolanda asks, what does showing up look like during COVID? Interactions or chance meetings look different now?
Oh, awesome question. Awesome. Okay, so you see my background. So I was given, I'm going to share with you this story. So I was given, they're called virtual backgrounds. And I love the idea. When I saw it, I said, oh, I love that Bowls Move background. But then when I tried it, like I turned my head and my ear would disappear or whatever, right? So I wanted to show up where you could see me, you could feel me, and I wasn't worried about how I was looking. So number one, showing up looks like I know my stuff. I know my material. You can ask me any question about this particular area of the business and I got you, right? So that's number one. Number two, how am I presenting? Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about? Or do I, when I talk and how I use my language, do I go up or am I steady in terms of, so for an example, I could say something like, well, you have to ask certain questions, kind of like if you, right, my voice is, there's uncertainty there. So showing up means I'm flat-footed, I'm confident, I know my material, I look good, I sound good, not in an arrogant way, right, that you look good, but I look good in terms of I feel good about myself, right? And I'm dressed well. I cannot encourage this enough. When you are presenting, especially on a stage, that you go with looking your best because you never know who's going to be there. And my philosophy is go like you're going to meet the CEO. And if you're going to meet the CEO, dress that way. Now, in terms of virtual, it's important for you to check your background, right? What's in your background? I was on a call the other day and the person looked like they had just rolled out of bed, number one. Number two, their closet was opened and it looked like they had tossed things in their closet. They didn't close it if that's what they would have wanted to do. I have interviewed people that literally show up and they're discombobulated. They're like, oh, well, like, right? So wake up, right? There's a world out there. We need your energy. We need your knowledge. We need you come with energy and zest and vivaciousness and passion about how you can solve their problem. Energy and enthusiasm is contagious about the subject. And most importantly, the passion you want to have is not about the subject that's important to you, but about the problem that you're going to that you're going to help them to solve that is important to them. I hope that was helpful. And also, by the way, because a lot of people do it, I see this, don't show up with ties around your head like, you know, you just woke out of bed, like curlers. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Just be mindful of that. All right, I am done. It has been a pleasure to serve you. Take care, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for the last session of National Sexual Assault Conference 2020. Fingers crossed, we hope to see you next year in Anaheim.